What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Barely Qualified Picks. I don't have to tell you, it is Super Bowl week. We are recording on Thursday night. We are 3 days away from the big game. The Seahawks remain a 4.5 point favorite. The total remains at 45.5. We've got a lot to talk about. JC, glad to have you with me. How are you feeling as a Seahawks fan 3 days away from potentially the second world title in our franchise's history?
And redemption. I think that's the other big thing. And I'm sure everybody has been thinking about it, asking questions. Mike McDonald is tired of answering the question. If you've been paying attention to what they're calling Media Row this year, not Radio Row, against the Patriots. I am stoked. I cannot wait for Sunday to get here. I'm making an incredible pulled pork cheese dip for the Super Bowl party I'm
Don't
going
tease me,
to.
John.
But I'm great. We just got through an incredible NBA trade deadline that's maybe one of the
talk
most
about that.
explosive I can remember. And then, yeah, man, Sunday cannot be here soon enough.
Hey, and Sunday isn't just the Super Bowl, but how often does the Super Bowl also overlap with the start of the Olympics? The Winter Olympics are here. I love the Winter Olympics. I'm much more of a Winter Olympics guy than a Summer Olympics guy. And I've got some events that I'm really excited about, including the first time ever they're doing ski mountaineering. I want to talk a little bit about what that is when we get to the Olympics and why I'm so hopeful that it's going to be a hit. But we'll get to all that and more. We got to start with the Super Bowl. Again, we're 3 days away. We learned in the last week that Drake May's shoulder is really not injured. He's going to be fine. We got a scare this week with our defensive rookie of the year candidate. Did not win tonight. Went to Schlesinger. Fine year. Played for a crappy team. I don't really understand how Carson won that award. Nick Emenwari didn't win it. But the more important thing is it looks like he avoided a mid to high ankle sprain this week in practice. And it looks like maybe with a little bit of medical help, somebody get that magic spray from the soccer guys. Nick Emenwari is going to be able to go. And the Seahawks are going to be less Zach Charbonnet, essentially full strength for this game.
It's really exciting. And yeah, I think they're going to have a lot of Toradol on the sideline ready to go. It's really exciting. I mean, we've seen the Seahawks banged up in different position groups in different stretches of the year. And it's exciting that they're going to have everybody, like you said, except for Zach Charbonnet, which depending on who you talk to, that actually could be a benefit. We've seen Ken Walker really own that running game, and they've, played that hot hand and haven't played the herky-jerky, okay, Ken's had a few good runs, let's pull him out and throw Zach in, game that we've seen in the past. And against this Pats team, they're going to need it.
So, John, last week on the pod, I talked about, both my expectation that the Seahawks on offense and defense are going to be essentially the best combination the Patriots have played. I give all the credit in the world to the Chargers and the Texans and the Broncos for the defenses that they brought to the table. But none of those teams paired those defenses with an offense like the Patriots are going to see in the Seahawks. When I, break it down as objectively as I possibly can, I understand why the Seahawks are 4.5 point favorites, and I even understand why there are so many analysts out there, even though it surprises me a little bit, catches me off guard every time it happens. But there are a lot of people out there that think it's going to be a rout. I'm not so sure. I worry about the nobody believes in us factor, and I don't know how real that is. You talked already about the rematch and the redemption factor, and as Mike McDonald has said, none of these guys were on that team. None of these coaches coached that team. That was so long ago that it's the same logos and that's it. I believe that. At the same time, when you feel like everybody's picking against you, I do think that maybe that nobody believes in us mindset can help just take it up a notch, one little extra notch. And in a game of inches, in a game of margins, that little extra bit of motivation could be the difference. How do you think about, one, the spread? Like, we haven't talked about this yet on the show, but where is your head just in terms of this matchup? And then how do you consider the nobody believes in us factor for the Patriots?
Look, if there was any other coach in the league that was heading up the Pats, you kind of downplay it, but Mike Vrabel knows how to get these guys going. He knows how to take that kind of material and stick it on the bulletin board. But hey, on the other
I
side,
mean, Mike
Mike
Verbal, who
Verbal,
won the
the
Coach of the
coach of
Year
the year,
award.
yeah. But on the other side of the table, we do not care. Mike McDonald, this isn't fun for him. This is a business trip, and it could be easy for other coaches to look at this and be like, "Yeah, we're gonna whoop these guys' ass. We have the best quarterback and wide receiver combination that they've faced in the playoffs." I would probably say that Justin Herbert, you'd probably take him over Sam Darnold, but then you look at CJ Stroud, Jared Stidham, I'd probably take Sam over either of those two, especially with how
Absolutely. I mean, how many of them have won 14 games in back-to-back seasons
for different teams, which
for
has that ever
different
happened
teams, no
before?
less?
I don't think so. But then you look at the running game, you look at the offensive line, like it's going to be a challenge for the Pats on both sides of the ball. And I think you're exactly right. It is the best defense that they've faced. It's the best offense they've faced. And oh, by the way, it's nice and warm. There isn't snow to deal with. It's a neutral site stadium, so it's going to be a very different type of game than they've played in this postseason so far.
But can I throw one thing at you that I think is actually going to be very similar about the games that they've played in the postseason so far? John, do you know who the most sacked quarterback in the postseason is? Spoiler alert, it's Drake May, and it's not close. He's taken 15 sacks in this postseason. The next closest quarterback has taken 6. And when you look at the regular season, Drake May took 44 sacks. That was 4th most in the league among quarterbacks that started. And that has to be a little bit scary for a New England fan, because you and I know as Seahawk fans, when the Seahawks don't blitz a lot, but they got pressure without blitzing more than any other team in the league. Now, when that doesn't happen, all of a sudden it inspires a little bit of fright. The defense doesn't look the same. Like you look at the Rams, we sacked Matt Stafford for the first time in 2 years
Since
in the NFC
2013,
Championship.
yeah.
But that is not the offensive line. That's not the game plan for the Pats. I expect that Drake May will hit a deep ball or two. And we'll get to the receiving props. I kind of like Kayshon Boutte there because he's the deep ball guy, not Stephon Diggs. But I think we're going to have enough drives where we're getting in the backfield and we're putting them way behind the sticks, and then we're able to get the ball back in favorable field position that, again, it's hard for me when I look at that statistic, and so much of the game is not taking big negative plays and not turning the ball over. And if Sam protects the ball like he has, because that's very understandable. If you're a Patriots fan, the first thing you point to is, yeah, Drake May took the 4th most sacks in the league. Do you know who turned the ball over the most? Sam. He had the most interceptions and the most total turnovers. But that's also not the Sam Darnold that we've seen in recent weeks. And there were a couple games in there that really hurt him, like that first Rams game, 4 interceptions. I mean, that wasn't who he was every game. And I think if we see B plus A minus Sam Darnold, not even A plus Sam Darnold, that is going to be really hard for the Patriots because he's not going to make those mistakes. He's not going to take those sacks. And that could be what the game comes down to.
Very valid. You look at the beginning of the season too. Game-ending interception in week 1 against the Niners when he was driving to go win the game. Game-ending interception in week 4 or 5 against the Bucks in that crazy shootout back and forth, and then those interceptions in that Rams game, and then he really has and then he had a bad stretch after that Rams game until the second half of the second Rams game on Thursday night, in which he threw a bunch of picks, and then he really did turn it around. Now, on the other side, I don't think any Patriots fan feels good about this offense. They struggled against the Chargers. They struggled, and yeah, they put up a good score against the Texans, but the Texans turned the ball over 4 times, and the Pats got 0 points from that. Like, Drake May is either hitting home run balls and has a good drive, or it stalls out immediately, and we saw that in the snow in Denver as well. Yeah. And that's got to be scary if you are a Pats fan, knowing what's going to be coming from this Seahawks defensive side.
Agreed. And I want to talk about the Seahawks offense now for a little bit, because I think, again, like I believe this is going to be a game where the Patriots score somewhere between 14 and 17 points. So the question that I have as a fan of the NFL, as a Seahawks fan, is, can Sam Darnold get to 18 or more points? you look at DraftKings, and we're going to talk about a lot of these props. Jackson Smith and Jigba's minus 110, essentially his even odds receiving yards, are 97. That's really high, even for a guy like that. That says they look at Christian Gonzalez on the other side and say, yeah, you have a number one cornerback, but he's not a number one cornerback like a Patrick Surtain. Oh, and by the way, Clint Kubiak moves Jackson Smith and Jigba around so much that there's no real expectation that Christian Gonzalez is going to follow him all game. But here's the thing for me. I actually wouldn't bet the Jackson Smith and Jigba line. I think there's a world, I think you play this game 50 times, there are 25 of them where Jackson Smith and Jigba goes for over 100 yards. He has a touchdown or two. And the question is, who's the MVP? Is it Sam or is it JSN? Neither of these other guys are going to be MVP, but the two guys that I really love on the receiving side are Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp is at 34 yards for even money. If you bet Cooper Kupp at 40 yards or more, 40 plus, you get plus 121 odds. Cooper Kupp, one, he has that championship pedigree. He has the innate talent, right? He's a big body guy. He's not a smaller guy. It's not like when Steve Smith lost a step back in the day. He still has a big frame, great catching radius. He pulls the ball down. He's not afraid to go over the middle. And he can make some vertical plays. I like Cooper Kupp to go 40 plus yards because I think so much attention is going to be put on Jackson Smith and Jigba that it's going to open Cooper Kupp up. And I think this is probably his last moment to shine on the biggest stage. And I think he's going to take advantage of it. And the other guy that I love is Rashid Shaheed. His even money is 25 plus yards. If you go 40 plus yards on Rashid Shaheed, you're getting better than 2-1. You're getting plus 220 odds. Now, I also like Rashid Shaheed on his rushing prop because Rashid Shaheed only has to get 6+ yards. That is one jet sweep. And we know that they don't jet pass it. They do jet sweep it. So he would get the rushing attempt. I like both of those. And I think that Jackson Smith and Jigba, he's not going to be a decoy. He is going to make plays in this game. And he's going to force New England to pay attention to him from the first whistle to the last. But the props that I like are really the secondary receivers for the Seahawks. Where are you when looking at the Seahawks receiving props? Like, where would you put your money right now?
So I like catches for JSN. I think he's going to be there at least 4 to 5, and I know that his receiving props are probably a little bit higher than that. Cooper Kupp.
You gotta bet 7+ just to get minus 150 odds.
Wow.
So if you're talking about 5+ is minus 620. So Vegas completely agrees with you. He's going to touch the ball a lot. Is he going to touch the ball that much?
That's a lot. And that's where I think he's going to get his, and he's going to force double teams that are going to open up Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp has saved his best ball for the end of the season. Like, at the beginning of the year, it was very much oh, wow, Cooper's really washed. This is really hard to see. I guess he's just a locker room presence.
He looked like a glorified tight end that couldn't block.
And then it down the stretch and in the playoffs, he's balled out. And
load management?
Little bit. He's, like I said, he saved his best for last. Now, we talked about prop bets. I went the other way on these and looked at like fun prop bets, which we'll
get to those in a minute. I want to talk about the prop bets that really translate to our expected game flow, right? Because that's what prop bets are. When you're betting prop bets, you're looking at a game and saying, I know if this game gets played 10 times, 50 times, 100 times, there will be a range of outcomes. But what I think will be consistent across most of the outcomes are A, B, and C, right? And so like, I think one of them for me is going to be Kenneth Walker, right? Not having Zach Charbonnet, we saw George Holani played well in the passing game, got a couple of big first downs in the NFC Championship game, but he was completely ineffective on the ground. And they gave him essentially all of Zach Charbonnet's touches.
Yep.
We suspected, knowing that Kenny has never been a high volume guy in the pros. He was in college. He had plenty of 35, 40 touch games in college, so he can do it. But I expected that he would have 20 to 25 touches in that game, and he didn't. And look, he went 19 for 62 with a touchdown, and that 62 yards was way more impressive than 19 for 62 sounds. But I think in this game, he's going to have to do a little bit more than that, and 19 rushes, 19 plus, is minus 122. If you go up to 20, you get him at plus 110. I really like 20 touches because it's the Super Bowl. They're going to look at those George Holani touches and say, Kenny, can you handle half of those? And that gets him over 20.
It's not only that, I think there's no such thing as garbage time in the Super Bowl. And if this does go down this route where the Seahawks are up 17 in the fourth quarter, or something like that, if the game flow is, please God, let this happen down that way, they're not going to pull Kenny. They're going to run Kenny and keep him touching the ball.
I agree. So you like Kenny 20 plus carries as well.
I do.
What do you like more, Kenny at 20 plus or George Holani at 4 plus? Because Vegas agrees with us. I suspected this would be the case. And when I went and looked at the odds, it didn't surprise me that George Holani had minus odds at 3 plus carries, plus odds at 4 plus carries. So Vegas is looking at it the same way. What he did last week does not justify a similar workload this week. But what I don't understand is they haven't really pushed up the Kenny carries. Like they've taken them away from George. So you have to believe one of two things is true. You're either getting value with Kenny Walker at 20 plus carries and plus money, or you're getting value with George Holani at 4 plus carries plus 133. Or shit, maybe you parlay both of them betting on the Seahawks have a double-digit lead and they are just going to run the crap out of the ball in the second half.
What's the over-under on catches for Holani?
Catches for Holani, what do you think the even money number is?
1.5.
The even money number is 3.
Wow. Okay. So they are expecting him to be a check down guy.
2 plus minus 141. If he gets the third, it's plus 197. So Vegas is saying he's going to get 2. He'll get 2. He's almost certainly not going to get 3. I like that, John. Because if he gets 2, like if he's in there for those third down snaps, and Kenny's gonna have to get a blow, especially if they're able to generate some longer drives, which is what this offense does. It's not usually going to be a 1 or 2 play thing, right? We'll hit some big plays, but usually we're generating 8, 9, 10 play drives when we're scoring. That bodes well for George Holani 3 plus catches.
I think so. And play action play action is going to be prevalent. You're also going to have Sam Darnold, who he goes through his progression and then he takes care of the ball and he looks for the check down. He's not trying to make all these hero plays. And I think that's where Holani's going to thrive.
So, John, I wanted to pick our top 3 props for serious props, and then we'll pick 3 for silly props. Of the 3 that we just discussed, Holani 4 plus carries, plus money. Kenny Walker 20 plus carries, plus money, but less plus money. Or Holani 3 plus receptions, essentially 2-1. Which of those 3 do you want to put in our top 3?
I want to put the Holani because of the value. The value at 2-1 is just, it's enormous.
Let's do it. Okay, now let's talk about Patriots receiving props, because the Patriots have a good receiving core. Stephon Diggs is their number 1 receiver. You and I have watched a lot of football for a lot of years. Stephon Diggs has had games in his career. I remember some of those Buffalo games where he really felt like a number 1 receiver. But it's been a long time. He's had some good games for the Pats this year, but at no point did you go, wait, is Stephon Diggs one of the best receivers in the league this year? No, he wasn't. And so when I look at Stephon Diggs, he's at 60 plus, gets you plus 174, 50 plus gets you plus 110, 46 plus gets you even money. That's I would stay away from that.
Wow.
It's pretty low, but it's attractive.
It is. It feels attainable.
100%. What I like, Kayshon Boutte, 32 plus yards gets you even money, 40 plus yards gets you plus 134. He can do that in one play, but he's also not just a long ball threat. He can catch balls in the intermediate part of the field as well. So that one is appealing to me. And then I can't help but look at Hunter Henry, because that the check down, the safety valve, the protection for Drake May in this game as the Seahawks defense is bearing down on him is going to be Hunter Henry. He is minus 114 odds at 40 plus yards though, which I don't love. I think if I was going to go Hunter Henry, I would lean in on Hunter Henry and I would probably go 50 plus yards at plus 146. And I would probably parlay that with Hunter Henry at 4 plus catches. So 4 yards, 4 catches, 56 yards. And that's going to get you 4-1 odds. What do you think about those three guys?
I do think that Drake May is going to be scrambling a lot, trying to stay alive and make plays happen. He's going to have to be. Did he win the MVP tonight? I didn't finish
No, he
the
didn't.
show.
Matt Stafford
Good.
did get.
Good for Matt Stafford.
Yeah, I mean, look, when you throw 47 touchdowns and the next guy throws 31, I'm sorry, I don't care what your record was at the end of the year. Also, you played against the easiest schedule. Go play the Rams schedule. Let's see what your numbers are. No, I mean, there was no way to take that away from Matt Stafford.
Good. I am happy to hear that. But hey, Mike Verbal got his award, so we're good.
Verbal got his award. Good for
but no, with Drake May, I do think he's going to be scrambling a lot. He's going to be trying to make plays happen, and I think that's going to be coming from who's the open guy that's standing 4 yards down. Okay, there's Hunter Henry. Thank God. Getting him the ball. Ramondre Stevenson catches, I think, is going to be an interesting one. I could see that over 3.5 for a lot of the same reason. I'm interested.
4+ is plus 132, so that's a really nice number.
Yeah. What do you think about Mac Hollins as well?
So, one of the things that I looked at was I do think Drake's going to get a bomb in this game. And so if you were to go Mac Hollins 40+ yards, Mac Hollins 40+ yards is plus 188. And then Kayshon Boutte, as we talked about, is plus 134. So you could bet both of those, knowing that if just one of them hits, you're going to end up in the profit. And you're hoping that it's Mac Hollins. But, it could be a world where both hit, but I could also see a world where neither hits.
I was going to say, yeah.
I suspect the way we play defense, where we've been hurt, is by the deep ball. And the deep ball is not going to hurt us with Stephon Diggs, but Mac Hollins and Kayshon Boutte, that's what they do.
And I do think it'll be Kayshon Boutte. Out of all the other ones that we just listed, Kayshon Boutte is the one that I think could have a few plays here and there that get him where he needs to go from a yards perspective.
So do you like Kayshon Boutte more than 3+ receptions for Ramondre Stevenson?
I like Ramondre Stevenson. I think they're going to be just trying to get the ball out and finding some kind of positive yardage. I think there's going to be a lot of punts from the Pats offense this weekend. And I have a prop bet that I'm so excited to talk about for in our next little segment here. But I think as a result, they are going to have to make adjustments to just get positive yardage and just find first downs.
Yeah. Okay, so let me step back. Ramondre Stevenson 3+ catches or Kenny Walker 20+ carries?
Kenny Walker 20+ carries.
Okay. And so do we want to go with Kenny as our second pick as we've talked through the Patriots receiving side of things?
Yeah, I can see a world where this Patriots offense gets shut down like they have the last 2 out of the last 3 weeks, what I'll say, because the Chargers defense did a phenomenal job.
I mean, even the Texans defense did, right? Like, they only gave up 21. One of those was a pick 6. So,
Oh yeah, you're right. No,
yeah,
there
was a defensive score, wasn't there?
Yes, but their defense did give up 21 points. So the Patriots scored 28. Of that was a pick 6, but of
the Houston defense gave up 21 points.
Yes, yes. Sorry. We're saying the same thing. But my point there is those did come from just good drives from Drake May. Those 21 points were long, stretched out drives. Not against Denver though, and that's one of those things I could see a world where they put up single digits.
And it's funny because as I've been listening to all these other podcasts and these analysts talk about it, if people talk about that Denver-New England game as though the whole game was a snow game. We got almost 3 full quarters of football where it wasn't a blizzard. And in those 3 quarters, to your point, the Patriots couldn't do almost anything against the Denver defense.
Yeah, it was really unfortunate. Denver should have just played the Who's the team that the Waterboy team plays against in the championship where they realize all they have to do is take a knee for the entire second half?
I don't remember.
Okay. Yeah, but it worked until Bobby Boucher started playing offense. But that's ultimately what Denver should have done is just not even put themselves in a position to lose that game. They should have just been taking knees and punting. But hindsight's 2020.
Absolutely. Okay, so turnovers. This is one that I like. I think that there will be less than 2.5 turnovers, and it's even money on over under 2.5. And so I wanted to throw this one at you as one of our bets. I think both teams are going to play fairly conservatively. I think the quarterbacks, if they are going to be in sack range. They'll take the sacks and not turn the ball over. I don't expect this to be a messy game. And again, I feel like 2.5 is really a reflection of what Sam did early in the year. I feel like if Sam played the way he did all year, like he did the last like 3 games since that second half of that St. Louis game or that Los Angeles Rams game, as you said, I think this would be at 1.5. What do you think?
I don't think the Seahawks are going to have to go chase the game. Where I think the turnovers could potentially come from is Drake May. I think under is probably fair. I do think the Seahawks get through this game without turning the ball over. And then it's just going to be a matter of what the game flow looks like for Drake and if he can play smart and not turn the ball over. Yeah.
Okay, so what do you think in terms of the 20 plus Walker attempts versus under 2.5 turnovers?
I would keep
Get it?
the Walker
And
attempts.
we're getting a lot more value with
Yeah,
Walker.
I will say, so the turnover one that I like is one of the special prop bets, and there are a lot of special prop bets that are to needle Seahawks fans because they just cannot let us live down 2014. One of them is an interception from starting in the red zone, and that's at plus 330. That's for either team. 3-1, I think the game flow would have to dictate. This comes from Drake May trying to be a superhero, a play breaking down, maybe early in the second quarter trying to really battle back. I think he will have a few good drives where he gets into the red zone and then the Seahawks defense clamps down. And I think one of those could result in an interception. And
what are those odds?
Plus 330. It's not great odds, but it's a fun one.
But I kind of like that for the fun one. Okay, well, let's close out our top 3 by picking a touchdown score. When you look at the odds, Kenny Walker has the worst odds. He's minus 195. JSN is essentially even money to score a touchdown, and then it gets into the plus odds. Ramondre is plus 140. Hunter Henry is plus 240. So is AJ Barner. Cooper Kupp plus 260. Rashid Shaheed is plus 350. Who do you like?
So I just want to say, before we pick one, what I find fascinating about this.
I know where you're going.
The Seahawks defense has plus 400, which is better odds than Mac Hollins and Travion Henderson.
And George Halani.
That is where Vegas thinks this game is going to go, is the defense is going to be an impact driver. Now, I really like Rashid Shaheed at those odds. I think he's going to either have a deep bomb or he's going to make an impact on special teams. I have a really good feeling, again, because I think there's going to be a lot of punts, so I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities.
All right, so we like Shaheed, and because I'm with you on that. He was one of my favorites. I think he could score. He could score in the run game. He can score on a long pass. He can score in the red zone on a short pass, dragging across the field as the defense is sucking over to JSN, and he can score on kickoff and punt return. So I like that too. I really like the plus 350 odds. So we'll call that our third prop. So we went all Seahawks here. We tried not to. But we went all Seahawks here. We've got George Halani at 3+ receptions at plus 197. We have Kenny Walker at 20+ carries at plus 118. And we have Rashid Shaheed anytime touchdown at plus 350. All right, now let's talk about the fun ones. And I want to start with the Super Bowl Scorigami. John, will you please explain for people what Scorigami means?
Yes, so a Scorigami is a final score that has never happened before. So this takes into account just the Super Bowls. We are obviously in Super Bowl 59, or are we in Super Bowl 60? We're in Super Bowl 60. So there have been 59 games played before. So, if this game ends up being 10-13. Well, there have been Super Bowls that the final score was 10-13, so that is not a Scorigami. The unique thing about this, because it's a unique score, there has been a Scorigami in the regular season of like the last 20 straight years, at least one. I don't know if we've gotten one this year. Why I really like this is, again, I think there is a good chance of this being a blowout, and Super Bowls are typically not blowouts. You've done a little bit of research into where those favorable spots are for if the winning team can get there. I think if the Seahawks can get into the 30s, which I really do believe their offense can get there, we're in a good place. And at 25-1, man, I really like this bet.
And John, we can post the output, but we ran this through Claude and we asked Claude to go build a list of all of the possible scores that could fall out and still lead to a scorigami. And actually, when you first presented this to me, I was a little dubious at 25-1. It felt like, maybe it should be 40-1 or 50-1. But as you look at all of the possibilities, actually there, to your point, if the winning score is below 20, it's not going to happen. But if the winning score is above 20, and if it gets into 30, then all of a sudden there's a decent probability that scorigami takes place. And at 25-1, I really came around on that one. I like that as one of our fun bet locks.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of it. I love just the nerd data aspect of it, but also the more I looked at it, I was like 25-1 with how I think this game really might go. Yeah, let's.
And then the other one is, you said INT in the red zone.
Yes.
And it can come from either team.
Yes.
I mean, and look, Sam did that against the Rams earlier in the year. He threw that interception to Trey Turner when he dropped into coverage. Sam didn't expect that defensive tackle to be popping into a short zone. And of course, Trey Turner got his mitts on it, and that was a big play in that game. I like that too. What did you say the odds are?
Plus 330.
Plus 330. I like that. All right. What else do you have for me?
Okay. So, we got to talk about the coin toss, right?
Let's talk about it.
So
I would never bet the coin toss.
It's minus 113 for obviously heads and tails. They got to get theirs.
Yeah.
I'm going tails. You always got to go tails. And there was one year.
Why do you always got to go tails? I'm a heads guy.
Because the tails side is heavier. Or lighter. I don't know. It's not. It's equally related. But tails, you had one year a playoff pick'em that we did, and it was a bunch of props throughout the season, and I had a lead going into that. I believe I won it that year, and it all started off with picking tails. So I'm going tails. The second one, what color is that Gatorade going to be, Denny?
So, this is interesting to me. I think the Seahawks are most likely to have lime green because it fits the Seahawks color palette, right? You had mentioned to me that clear/water is a sucker bet. But my question is, like, Arctic Rush or whatever Gatorade calls that, does that count as clear/water?
Yeah, but that's the worst flavor. It's the worst flavor. No player wants that when they're playing their hearts out. Like, no, you want the yellow, or you want the blue, or you want my pick, the red. At plus 750.
Yeah, but only the Patriots can have the red. Like, there's no way there could be a shot at the end of the game and the Seahawks are being doused in a Patriots color. The NFL is not dumb enough to allow that. So my thing is, in picking the Gatorade color, you have to pick a team first and then make an assumption. And the Patriots will be red or blue, and the Seahawks will be green or blue.
That's fair. That's fair. I'm still going red because I think at those odds plus 750, there is a chance that it falls through the cracks, and
No way.
Gatorade gets dumped.
That's why it's 750, because they're already baking in the fact that they don't expect the Patriots to win.
But do the Patriots like that flavor? Because I think that matters, and red is the best flavor.
I mean, I think that the Patriots, I agree. Fruit Punch is the best Gatorade flavor. I think if you were to do a poll, and I mean, if there isn't any democracy in an NFL locker room, you got to hope that the person who's making the choice also has a sensible palate and is going to choose Fruit Punch. But there is no way on God's green earth the Seahawks are choosing Fruit Punch. There's just no way. So if you think the Seahawks are going to, and if you bet red, then you're a traitor.
Yeah, I get that. I think I'm going to stay away from that one, but I just did want to talk about it. Now, the last prop that I've got, which I actually really like, is the fastest ball carrier by Next Gen Stats. This is who winds up holding the ball and running the fastest, obviously. And the odds show this out. Shahid is number one. I think he's plus one. Rashid Shaheed. Shaheed.
I have to listen to that dude so much. I was on the golf course, and this guy was a big Seahawks fan, and he kept trying to say his name, and finally he goes, I can't say that guy's name, but you know who I'm talking about. And I was like, yeah, hey, our last name is Ceccarelli. I get it.
But I like him a lot, and I like him for a couple different reasons. If he catches the ball in stride, he's going to get up to speed. He's going to field a lot of kicks. And if he breaks one tackle and gets the ability to run downhill, he doesn't have to take it to the house. If he can run for 20 yards straight accelerating, I think he gets that speed and he's able to just put the afterburners on again. Even if he gets tackled in the end, he's made that miles per hour metric.
Yeah.
So I really like him for all those reasons.
Okay, so I like that. What are the odds on that one?
I believe he was plus 150. Like he's a big favorite.
I'm going to ask you to consider this against my favorite silly bet. And this is I'm not superstitious, but to quote Michael Scott, I am a little stitious. And I feel like this year, without looking at any data, we've seen more doinks off of an upright or a crossbar than in prior years. I don't want to say in any year, but it feels like we've seen a lot this year. Do you know what the odds are to have any field goal or any extra point hit the goalpost? Doesn't matter if it goes in. Just hit the goalpost in any part of the goalpost.
God, plus 800?
Plus 600. So, yeah, plus 800 would have been a little sweeter, but 6-1 odds. I think we're going to see 3 field goal attempts. I think we're going to see 5 or 6 touchdowns in the game. So we're going to get like 8-ish attempts. I could see it.
I also think that you're going to see long field goals from the Pats, and that could lend itself to a little wiggle left and right, but it should be a calm day. It doesn't get that windy in Santa Clara, and the weather looks like it's going to be pretty solid, so I think there is that, but I like that. I like that. That's a fun one.
Okay, so we'll call that our third fun bet?
Yeah.
All right, okay, we're going yes on Doink for plus 600. And we will pretend put $20 on each one of these. And next week, we will come back and admit how we've done. Look, nobody expects to get rich off Super Bowl prop bets. It's all a fun thing. And then I had one more, actually. And this was actually a real one that I meant to raise with you. I like, not parlaying, but betting both in expectation that both will hit. DeMarcus Lawrence plus 114, 1 plus sack. And Leonard Williams plus 178, 1 plus sack. I think the Seahawks are going to get 3 sacks in this game. I think there's a really good chance that each of those guys gets to Drake May. And even if only one does, positive money.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. And I think this caps off this magical year that Tank Lawrence has had, especially looking at the discourse, which, it's been beaten to death, like everything has since we have 2 weeks to go, between him and Micah Parsons, and leaving Dallas and choosing to come here and like wanting to win a Super Bowl and go make an impact, get a sack that ends a drive that gets us back the ball. And I like that a lot.
Okay, so John, it's coming down to it. Who are you going to pick? What do you think the final score is going to be of Super Bowl 60?
I have to take the Hawks. And I've said that multiple times. I do think
and not just because you're a fan. It's hard not to pick the Hawks here.
They have the better wide receivers. They have the better offensive line. They have the better linebacking core. They have the better safeties. They have the better defensive. When I look at it position group by position group, the special teams, I give the edge to Seattle. It's hard for me to not think they have the advantage in every aspect of the game. And I don't think Drake May's that much of an upgrade over Sam Darnold. And I think he's had an incredible season. Again, over 70% of the games he played this year in the regular season, their coaches were fired. And then he got 4 games.
That's a crazy stat. Can we stop on that for a second? You sent me this schedule. It was the Patriots schedule, and it was like fired coach, and
NFC South.
And NFC South. And then my reaction to you was, is this real? Or is this just a Reddit thing? Like, is this AI slop? No. 70% of the teams that they played this year saw coaching turnover. That's insane.
Insane. And there have been, I think the stat was the easiest regular season schedule since the 80s or something crazy like that, like 30 or 40 years. And hey, they won in the postseason, and they had a very favorable road to get there, but they still won their games. And I think Sam Darnold could even be the better quarterback in this two matchup, but I'm very excited that we locked him up for 3 years and not just one.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
I do think that the
Which we
Seahawks.
did last year and not a couple weeks ago, like you texted me before you realized that that was a deal that we did last year.
Yeah, it was fun. After we made the Super Bowl, all the threads online were rehashing a lot of the deals we made last year and the media's reaction to them. But yeah, I do think the Seahawks are going to score somewhere in the 30s. I think it's going to be like, I'm going to say 33 because I think that benefits Scorigami because that's a weird number. Like 33-17, something along those lines.
I hear you. I think it's going to be a little bit closer than that. I think it's going to be a low scoring game. I think there are going to be a lot of punts. I think there are going to be a few sacks. And I think that ultimately the Seahawks are going to get up, call it 24-10. Patriots battle back, get a touchdown, but then the Seahawks run out the clock with that running game, and it's Seahawks 24, Patriots 17.
I'll take it. That's a ring, and that's a parade, and that is a Cap and Jody Allen's feather or hat.
And the entire state of New England is going to be sad. The entire state. All right, John, let's talk about the Olympics. I mentioned this. I'm excited. You know that I'm a skier. The mountain is my happy place. The Olympics for me is, one of the kind of truest forms of competition. Still, we see competitors from all over the world competing in really exciting events. We've got 16 disciplines. I want to talk through those, and then I want to talk about, we can kind of do a draft. Our top 5 favorite, we can go back and forth, and then our top 5 least favorite of the events that are going to be happening. So just to run through the 16 disciplines, it starts with alpine skiing. Alpine skiing is actually a big umbrella. You get downhill, you get slalom, you get the giant slalom, you get the super G, which is super duper fast ski racing. And then you have combined events for the men and the women. So that's kind of bucket 1. Bucket 2, I've always loved biathlon. You have cross-country skiing. I'm not really a cross-country skiing fan, but biathlon is cross-country skiing with guns. Mm-hmm. You're shooting, you're sprinting. It's, there are relay races. Like, that's pretty cool to me. I think marksmanship is incredible, and to be able to do that while you're cross-country skiing is always something that appeals to me. So I'm looking
control your heart rate. You have to control 100%. Your breathing. Like, it's incredible what they do.
And they don't get to use lorazepam like Snake back in Metal Gear Solid. You can't just pop a couple lorazepam and then snipe at will. All right. And then third, and this is going to be in my top 5. I'm just going to spoil it now. It's the bobsled. I'm a child of the 90s. Cool Runnings is always going to be near and dear to my heart. Feel the rhythm, feel the rhyme, get on up. It's bobsled time. I can't wait for the bobsled. Although I will say the bobsled might not be my favorite kind of downhill race, and we'll get to that in a second. We've got cross-country skiing. Like I said, standard long distance cross-country skiing is not really my thing. Curling, I get like that curling has this cult appeal. I don't know what you think of curling.
I think I
find it so boring.
It's that, we like curling because it's boring. Like, look how funny we are. Like, I don't think many people actually unironically like curling. I think it's like I ironically like it type thing.
Yeah, I get it. Figure skating. Where are you 1 to 10 on figure skating?
So figure skating is interesting because I like my earliest memories of the Winter Olympics. Well, it was Mom, but it was also the Russian judge who like got in a huge amount of trouble because he gave the Americans or somebody a 7 and gave the Russians a 10, and it completely screwed up the scoring, and it was extremely biased. And I remember being sick, watching the Olympics at home in our family room, and like Mom was pissed. It was this weird thing of like, why is this a big deal? And like, that's like just burned in my memory. And then there's the Will Ferrell, figure skating movie, and I loved that. Skates of Fire, Blades of Fire,
Blades of Glory. So give me a 1 to 10. Like, where are you? And does it matter if it's the men or the women, or if it's combined or individual? Like, does any of that matter to you? Like, where are you on the figure skate?
I fully respect when humans can make their bodies do things that shouldn't be physically possible, and like gymnastics in the summertime and skating in the wintertime, figure skating, like the G-forces that these people pull, and the fact that they're skating on skates, tiny pieces of metal, like it shouldn't be possible, but the acrobatics they do, like it's probably like a 7.5 or an 8 for me. Like, it's fascinating.
Yeah, I'm a 7 just because it's all relative and there's so many other events that I like. But, for me, it's sentimental because, like I mentioned, like I remember watching the Winter Olympics as a kid, and the one event that mom really cared about was figure skating. I don't really know why, because outside of the Winter Olympics, she never thought about figure skating. But that was the one that we watched. And for me, I remember the Nancy Kerrigan, Tanya Harding, all of that stuff. So there's history there. So I'm into figure skating, but, again, spoiler alert, it's probably not going to crack my top 5. Now, the next two events very much could. Freestyle skiing, moguls, aerials, slopestyle, halfpipe, big air, skier cross. I love all of those. I love the freestyle skiing events. And I'm not sure what I love more, the freestyle skiing or the ice hockey. And this year, for the first time since 2014, NHL players are back in the Olympics. So we've seen some incredible battles between the US and Canada. And now we get to see that take place on the grandest international stage in the Olympics. I am guessing ice hockey is a bigger pull for you than freestyle skiing. Am I right?
Oh, absolutely. And my next door neighbor is a huge hockey fan, and he grumbles a little bit because he's an Avs fan, and he's terrified of what this does to chemistry, what it does to rhythm. The Olympics break always puts its fingerprints. And then in college, I vividly remember Sidney Crosby breaking the hearts of Americans. I think that was the semifinal game, but it may have been the gold medal game. And that it's just, there's something about country level hockey that, the chemistry's there. They all play together in the NHL, and it's just, it's amazing. I love it. It's fun.
Yeah, I'm pumped. All right, so now we're about halfway through the list. We've got luge, racing on sleds, essentially. I like luge, but luge for me, there's luge, there's bobsled, and then there's skeleton. And skeleton, the athletes are going down the track.
People are fucking crazy.
It's insane. And they have the first person cameras, and you watch it, and it's just like you almost feel like you're going to fall off the sled. I think for me, it's skeleton, then bobsled, then well behind both of those is luge.
Fully agree. The people who do the skeleton, like they're adrenaline junkie madmen. All of them could work for Red Bull. Like it is fascinating to watch.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that there aren't many accidents in the Olympics.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if there are, because when there are, it's usually pretty tough.
Pretty nasty.
Those are not light injuries that are incurred. All right, so after luge, we get to Nordic combined, which is a step above cross-country skiing to me, but it definitely ain't cross-country skiing with guns. It's essentially ski jumping mixed with cross-country skiing, which it's like, okay. So we can move on from that. I know you're not really a skier, so I'm sure that one doesn't super appeal to you. The next one, also for me, kind of a dud, short track speed skating. So for me, this is like Micro Machines meets NASCAR. And I'm an F1 fan. So what I really want is I want like a wild track. I want them changing elevations. I want to see like roller derby short track speed skating. That's what I would want to see. Like this little 111 meter indoor oval. Oh, who can go around the circle the fastest? That's not my thing.
Well, I think the other part of speed skating, because there's short track and then there's full track speed skating, it is very monotonous until like the last 10 laps. And that's when you see people really stretch. Like,
it's like an NBA game, and nothing matters until the fourth quarter.
Although last Olympics or in one of these championship kind of, because they do have just the championship tournaments throughout the years between the Olympics. It was fascinating. There was, I think it was a gold medal race. There was a Chinese team member that had a strategy where she wasn't the fastest, but she just sprinted all out and then just hung at the back of the pack. And these racers just get into this monotonous rhythm. They didn't even realize that she was technically a lap ahead, and it was fascinating. Yeah, it's fascinating to go back and watch that. But yeah,
fascinating. But I wouldn't go back and watch it because I think speed skating is boring.
No, you watch the first lap and then you watch the last 3 laps.
Yeah. And I can say speed skating, as hard as that is for me.
Yeah, Apollo Ono, shout out to the soul patch. That was a moment in time that, being in high school at that point, watching a lot of people try and grow soul patches when they couldn't grow facial hair was fun.
Yeah, always. Okay, so we've got just a few more ski and snowboard events. We've got the ski jumping. This one, again, for me, is not the most exciting of the ski events. Like, I totally respect that these guys and gals are jumping a very long way in the air. They're just jumping a really long way on really, really long skis, and they're skiing out of it. And that's just not enough to get me out of bed. But the next one, ski mountaineering, which is brand new. This is so cool. They have to put on skins at the bottom of the mountain. They have to hike up. They have to do technical turns, and then sprint races and mixed relays are all part of the event. It's the first time they've ever run it. The U.S. barely made it in by the skin of their teeth in Utah. In the last qualifying, they got just enough points to get into this event. This for me, and we only have one event left, which is snowboarding. And snowboarding is really multiple events: half pipe, slope style, big air, and then the cross style events. But for me, ski mountaineering is the number one event that I am most excited for this year. So you get the number 2 pick. What is your number one most exciting event for this year?
It's got to be hockey. I'm looking forward to hockey. That's going to be great. Just solid battles. It's like basketball in the Summer Olympics, except it's a lot more competitive in the Winter Olympics.
All right. So then with the 3rd pick, comes back to me. And I'm going to take the skeleton because, man, I just love the speed of it. I love the danger of it, just being exposed the way they are. So I'm going to go skeleton 3rd. Who are you picking with the 4th pick?
I'm going to take the biathlon because, like we talked about, I have a huge respect. You also have to remember that
you're a great marksman yourself.
And the firearms that these people use in the Olympics are not like what we have at home. Like, they require mastery that is far above anything I could possibly even dream of.
Yeah. Okay. So then with the 5th pick, I get the 5th pick. You're going to get the 1st pick in the do not love Olympics. In the 5th pick of the gosh, I love this Olympics, I am taking slope style freestyle skiing. You get the best of tricks, speed, aerobatics, technical acumen. I just love the slope style and I can't wait to see it. All right. Bottom 5. What are you least excited for?
I mean, you kind of mentioned it, the ski jumping. It's cool, the first couple times, but then like what I really struggle with is like, okay, so what did that person really do differently that made them fly farther? Like I can't.
Well, you have heard the scandal in ski jumping this year, right?
No, please tell me more.
Oh boy. So the Norwegians, who historically have, always played very fair and all of that, they've been enlarging the size of their space between their legs, which has enabled them up until now to enlarge the size of their flying suits. And that's enabled them to fly farther in their ski jumps. And so there's this big scandal that came out that their suits were not proper and that they were gaming essentially the suit fitting process by having enlarged
So was this just like they got through TSA and they opened the bags and they're like, it's not mine. I swear. I'm skillful. I swear it's not mine.
Something like that. So I think that, that's the only redeeming factor for the ski jumping this year, but it'll be a talking point and it won't actually matter in the jumping because it's already been dealt with. Okay. So for me, number 2, I'm just going to go with cross country skiing, just people skiing. So it's like watching people fast walk. I'm not really interested in that either. Please run. I'd just rather watch you run. So I'm going to take with the 2nd pick, cross country skiing.
All right, I'm going to go to short track speed skating. I mean, at least long track speed skating, they have to maintain things, and it's not just a constant left turn. Short track, I don't get why we have to do this twice, why there's 2 sets of events, if I'm being honest.
All right, I'm going curling next because I'm going to go against the grain. I just really don't get it. I will not be upset if I don't see a single minute of curling in this Olympics. 4th pick, all you.
I mean, can I pick speed skating again?
Well, technically, yes. There are 2 different disciplines, and yes, you can.
Because I don't mind anything else. Like, everything else is like, yeah, I could watch this. I could jive with this. You picked all the other bad ones, so I'll go with speed skating again.
All right, and then I'll finish it off with Nordic combined. Because, again, what do I hate just a little bit less than cross-country skiing? Cross-country skiing with only a little bit of jumping. So we'll go ahead and go with that. All right, the Olympics start on Sunday. The opening ceremony is at 11 a.m. We've got qualifying still going on. One big piece of news that came out, we've both been in the gaming industry for a long time. There have been a lot of snow sports games that have come out. One of them years ago was Mark McMorris Infinite Air Snowboarding from our friends at HB Studios. Mark McMorris was practicing for Big Air and took a massive fall. It sounds like he's still going to be able to participate in the slope style, but he is out of the Big Air event. So he is somebody on the snowboarding side that I still follow and I still want to see succeed. When you go back and look at his history of injuries, you know, people like Mark McMorris just amaze me because they live with a recklessness and a fearlessness that I just do not have inside of me. And to go through what he went through and then to go, well, actually, it wasn't so bad. I hit my head pretty hard, can't do Big Air, but I'm still going to do slope style. I mean, man, testament to his toughness.
Well, and speaking of injury, Lindsey Vonn, who is 41 years old and has qualified for the Olympics, she fully ruptured her ACL last week. And she is still planning on competing, which is insane to me. And you're a skier. You tell me, how important is lateral movement in your knees when you're skiing? Like how?
I don't even know how she's going to do it. And I will say, I think even though it didn't put her out of the Olympics, her odds of being on the podium are probably not very good at this point. It probably wasn't great to begin with. But I think at this point with a bum knee, when it comes down, I mean, look, we're talking about the best athletes that train at, you know, this discipline their whole lives. It's hard to imagine that she's going to be able to best them with a bum knee.
100%.
I just don't see it.
I think for her, she just wants to go compete one last time because she knows it. I mean, look, at 45, is she really going to be able to go do this one more time? Probably not.
Yeah.
I will
Okay,
also,
John. Go ahead.
Yeah, Sunday also, we're talking about how loaded of a day it is. Final round of the Waste Management Open, and the one note I'll say, Scotty Scheffler's human. He had a stretch where he went bogey, bogey, double bogey today, and it made me feel really good. He also had a chip on, I think, the 16th green where it rolled back.
I watched that one.
And he just started slamming his chip or his wedge, and I was like, he's like me! He's not a robot! Yeah. It's justified.
Yeah, no, sort of like you. He's won a lot too.
Well,
so
he's multi-millionaire.
but no, I totally hear you. And you know, I'm pretty jacked up on the PGA season this year. It's fun to see Brooks Koepka back out there. I've been watching the coverage all day today, and yeah, I mean, it's great. I didn't even realize it was Waste Management Week until I pulled up ESPN.com this morning and saw our guy Matt Fitzpatrick was leading the way. Didn't end up in the lead at the end of day one, but yeah, it should make for a fun few days. All right, John.
Sorry, Joel Damon chipped in for a birdie on 16, and then he wore a Seahawks hat to the or a Seahawks helmet to the next hole. That's the last thing I'll say.
I love that. And Joel Damon, like anybody who's watched Full Swing on Netflix, it's hard not to be a Joel Damon fan. He had a really great week last week. He couldn't topple Justin Rose, but nobody could topple Justin Rose last week. Joel Damon still played great golf. I have a soft spot for him. Really want to see him do well and earn more appearances on the tour this year. So yeah, great to see that. All right, John, let's talk about the NBA trade deadline because this is two things for me. One, this was one of the most active trade deadlines in recent memory. But two, I also look at it and I'm not sure anybody's championship hopes have changed. I'm not saying that nobody's gotten better. We'll start with the Cavaliers, right? James Harden goes to the Cavaliers for Darius Garland, who hasn't really played this year. Darius Garland is kind of like a Jordan Clarkson microwave spark plug type guy, but he doesn't necessarily always fit in the offense. And he's been very injured. He's small, doesn't play great defense. Not to say that James Harden plays great defense, but he is a much bigger defender. I look at all this though, and I just don't know that Cleveland's any scarier than they were before. And I think the big reason is I look at this Cleveland team now and I go, well, say what you will about Donovan Mitchell. But before this trade, you knew who the guy was in the fourth quarter. You knew who was going to get the ball for a final shot. And credit D-Mitch, he's made a lot. I don't think he's a guy that can't break through. I think he's a guy that hasn't broken through yet. Now you add James Harden to the mix, and the question becomes, who is going to take that shot down the stretch? Is Harden going to defer and let it be Mitchell? Is he actually going to be the facilitator that takes Mitchell to the next level? Or is there going to be a question? And if Harden's the one taking those shots late, well, his track record in the playoffs ain't that great when it comes to the biggest games, the biggest stages, and going home or not. What did you think of this Harden trade?
So they also traded a pick to get Harden. And it's really
Yeah.
interesting because a lot of the discourse early on was that the Clippers would have to give up consideration to get Garver, because you also got to remember Garver, I think he's a two-time
Garland.
Garland is, I think he's a two-time All-Star already. He's only 26. He's a young piece to build around. The Clippers did great in this trade deadline, by the way, to
They
set up their
also got
future.
DeAndre Hunter, and I like DeAndre Hunter.
But to go back to Harden, I think he has to come in and be the number two. You can't slow down the momentum that Donovan Mitchell has built as a superstar in Cleveland, not just this year, but over the last couple of years.
But John, if Harden becomes the number two, what does that do to Evan Mobley? Like, Evan Mobley hasn't become that guy yet, but he needs to be if Cleveland's going to win the East and have any prayer of beating whoever comes out of the West. For me, that's another complication. Like, is that going to elevate Mobley by pulling more attention away from him? But Mobley's playing in the post. He's a front court guy. I don't know how much help he's going to get. He's going to get more lobs from Harden, surely that. I think, that will help both Mobley and Jarrett Allen. But I just look at this, and again, I don't know that Cleveland is any scarier as an Eastern Conference contender, much less an NBA Finals contender following this trade.
Yeah, I mean, my thought process is, what percentage do we think Cleveland really improved? Is it 5%? Is it 10%? And is that really enough to get you over the line? I get that. Look,
it's a weak East.
It's a weak East. The Bucks obviously are not in contention. That has been a huge story that we'll talk about. Halliburton is still, he's not back from an Achilles. He probably won't play this year because he ruptured that so late. Jason Tatum probably won't play this year because he ruptured that so late. So you're looking at, the big contenders historically for the East, and it should be wide open. It should be. And is this going to be what Cleveland needs to get to the finals? And then are they thinking, well, hey, if we get there, it's anybody's game? Not actually the case. We've seen a lot of blowouts in the finals over the years. But this is our shot to try and make some noise.
Yeah. One of the trades that was a little puzzling to me, and we don't need to talk a lot about AD. I think, anybody can look at the fact that, the Mavericks gave up a generational player in Luka to get AD. AD was there for a cup of coffee, and now he's off to the Wizards where he's going to pair up with Trae Young, two guys that have some serious flaws in different areas of their game. I don't think it puzzles me for the Wizards because I thought they were trying to lose. Getting Trae Young made sense. And maybe if AD doesn't play again this year and they continue to tank, they're looking at a top draft pick in a pretty loaded draft, and they're going to have Alexander Sarr, they're going to have AD, they're going to have Trae Young, and then whomever they draft.
If they can extend those guys.
But then Dallas did this weird thing where the Mavericks then trade for Tyus Jones. Tyus Jones felt to me like the kind of point guard that should be going to a contender. The Blazers could use Tyus Jones, right? When you think about all the challenges that we've had at the point guard position, for him to end up in Dallas, where Dallas is definitely tanking now, it's going to be give Cooper Flag as many touches as possible and don't worry about the results. Tyus Jones to the Mavericks? That one puzzled me.
I have to think that they're building for next year. I mean, ultimately, according to Copilot, and I know you love Gemini, I gave Copilot a shot here. Luka ultimately landed Max Christie, Chris Middleton, AJ Johnson, Malachi Branham, and then I will say Marvin Bagley, who the Kings did think was better than Luka. And
they did.
And then 3 firsts and 3 seconds. So, the guy taking over for Nico has his work cut out for him. And thank God they landed Flag. And, in a few years, they may be good, but they went from the West or from a finals team to this.
And now what do you do with Kyrie, right? You've essentially told Kyrie to take the year off, thinking that next year is going to be the year that you'd have Flag, Kyrie, AD, you'd make a run. Now that's not going to happen. I don't know. It puzzles me. Let's talk about one that doesn't really puzzle me, but again, it doesn't make anybody materially better this year. And that is the Indiana Pacers trading for Ivica Zubac. I love Ivica Zubac. I think he has been one of the most underrated centers in the league. He doesn't shoot threes, right? That's a big thing when you look at the way the game has evolved. big men have been stretching the floor more and more and more. He doesn't really do that. He's more of a traditional big man, like an Isaiah Hartenstein type, but a little bit better. And what did the Pacers have to give up? Well, they gave up Ben Mathurin, who played some important minutes in last year's run, but he was one of those guys that you could give up. They gave up a top 4 protected first round pick in 2026. So that was pretty significant. And then a 29 first and second that are both unprotected. So they gave up a lot to get Zubac. But I really like this for the Pacers next year. When the Pacers are back, when Halliburton's back, when everybody's healthy and they're ready to make another run, I think Zubac will be a more important piece to the overall puzzle than Mathurin would have been. But, again, for the 2025-26 season, this doesn't change anybody's fortunes.
Yeah, I think, look, for both teams, they're setting themselves up for the future. Like I said with the Clippers, and
good for both.
Yeah, and the Clippers, they're building a foundation. They're getting more picks, they're getting more assets, and they could make the play-in, right? Like with Kawhi, anything's possible when you're coming in that 9-8, somewhere around there. Like you can win a couple games and then get in there, but I think it is good for them long term. And then for the Pacers, we knew this was going to be a down year. We're without Halliburton, we're not going to do damage. Yeah. Why don't we set ourselves up well moving forward? And I think it's good.
You know who I like a lot, though, and again, I don't know if this changes the Knicks' fortunes this year, because I already thought, they've obviously been in a rut, and that can happen with the team. But we've also seen them win the NBA Cup in the midseason tournament. We know what the Knicks are capable of. I really liked them going and getting Jose Alvarado from the Pelicans. The Pelicans have been the most competitive shitty team in recent years. And Jose Alvarado's been a spark plug, and he's a good point guard. He has no fear. He'll go to the basket. I think that Jose Alvarado is an immediate upgrade on Miles McBride, who has been playing decently well for New York. Like when I watched Knicks games up until McBride's injury, he would jump off the screen and be like, wow, I think he's underrated. But now he's injured. They don't really have a second option. And I think even if he wasn't injured, Alvarado would have been an upgrade. So I like this for New York. But again, Jose Alvarado is not the type of guy that's going to change your championship odds, whether Eastern Conference or NBA Finals on DraftKings.
Yeah, I mean, I have to imagine the Knicks were already, I think they were the 2 seed last time I looked. And, they are already up there in front runners, if not front runners, really high up there to win the Eastern Conference final or win the Eastern Conference, go on to the finals, and you're looking to just marginally improve here, there, maximize your shot in a down East where it's probably going to be the Knicks and the Cavs in the Eastern Conference finals. I wouldn't be surprised if that's where it is when we get there.
What do you think of this Lakers trade? I'm sure you saw it. Luke Kennard, once a former Clipper, comes back to Los Angeles via Atlanta. The Lakers trade Gabe Vincent and a 2032 second-round pick to get him. I thought this was a good trade for the Lakers. I'm not super high on the Lakers this year. I think they can score a lot of points, but they're just not good enough defensively to be a true championship threat. But I like Kennard. I think they need real shooting, somebody that can post up in the corner and can make big shots. And I think Luke Kennard can do that. And Gabe Vincent wasn't doing anything for them, which was a little puzzling because when they got Gabe Vincent away from Miami, and Miami had that, solid run behind Jimmy Butler and Bam to the NBA Finals, it felt like Gabe Vincent was actually a pretty decent point guard pickup for the Lakers, just never panned out. So again, this for me is like Jose Alvarado. I get why the Lakers did it. I think it makes them a little better. But does it change my outlook on the Lakers this year? Not one bit.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Gabe Vincent, for that Miami run, reminds me a lot of Gabe Davis after that game where he scored 4 touchdowns against the Chiefs, the infamous 13th second game. And then it was like, wow, this was his coming out party. And then it just never really panned out into anything. So maybe it's just a Gabe problem. Gabe problem, to be very clear of what I just said.
Yeah. I heard you.
Yeah. But yeah, I think this is ultimately a good thing. It always fascinates me. 2032. We're talking 6 years from now, and it's a second round pick. It perplexes me that they can trade assets that far in the future, but that's above me.
So we've got a couple more to get through. I want to talk first about Chris Paul, because this is interesting to me. Chris Paul obviously has this massive fallout with the Clippers front office and the coaching staff. He gets sent home earlier in the year, but they don't cut him. They don't buy him out. And now credit to the Clippers front office. They trade him to the Raptors. The Clippers get draft rights to Euro stash, Vanya Marinkovic. And, they get something for him. I don't know that he makes Toronto better, but, Toronto has a pretty good team. They're also pretty young. And if the Chris Paul culture works, then Chris Paul could be a big benefit. If he rubs people the wrong way that he did in LA, he may not be long for Toronto. But I thought at least credit to the Clippers for getting off of Chris Paul and getting something for him as opposed to buying out his contract.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting how at first it was, how do you piss off Chris Paul this way? How do you treat this legend that revitalized your franchise? Because Chris Paul was a part of Lob City and they were a joke before he and Blake Griffin came to town, and gave them credibility. And then now we're talking about how, the Clippers front office is kind of setting themselves up for success in a big way. The other part of it is, okay, so Chris Paul's, it's now February and he hasn't had all these minutes on his body, and he could potentially come in down the stretch and maybe have a fun, dark horse run with the Raptors and impart a lot of wisdom in that locker room. Like I think it could be fun to see what he can do in Canada.
I agree. Okay, last trade I want to talk about is this Jonathan Kuminga trade, because that leads us into the trade that didn't happen. Giannis. There was a lot of speculation that the Warriors were going to put together a package to send Kuminga to the Bucks to get Giannis. Obviously they held on to him. They finally moved him, but they did not move him for Giannis. The Warriors move him for, let me get the full package here, for Kristaps Porzingis, and in that package they also give up Buddy Hield. I don't see how this is a positive for the Warriors. To me, I feel like we've got 2 or 3 more years of Steph. I feel like he's still going to do his thing, but he's going to be injured. He's going to have more rest days. And I just feel like this window has closed on the Warriors. I was kind of surprised they didn't trade Draymond. I think it's time for Draymond to go. I know, obviously, Kuminga started in the rotation, fell out of the rotation. And excuse me. He was not long for Golden State, but to get Porzingis, who hasn't been healthy in years, I don't know, man. This feels like they just finally had to do something, so they did something, and I can't imagine the Warriors front office or the Warriors fans feel great about this.
I think the other part of it is they didn't need help at the big man position. They needed somebody else to help facilitate with Steph. When you look at what he's dealing with on a night in, night out basis, teams still give him respect. He's double teamed all game long, running into screen after screen after screen, and just the dude's just getting beat up. And we saw him put up 50. It was incredible every time he touched the ball. When they came to Portland, it felt like he was going to hit another 3. I think he went 11 for 14 or something that night. And he's still got the magic, but I think you're right. It's kind of sad to see that this is how his twilight, not even twilight, but kind of the tail end of his good years is winding down.
Yeah. Hey, I actually remembered I have one more that I want to run through, and that is the Jaren Jackson Jr. trade. I've been a embattled Jaren Jackson Jr. fan for years because I love his offensive game. I love, he has this super flat release from the perimeter, and I don't know why, but I like it. But he's also been a befuddling player because when you look at his rebound numbers for a guy who's 7 feet tall, he just doesn't rebound the ball well. He never turned into the number 2. Look, Ja Morant never turned into the number 1 he really needed to be in Memphis, but that wasn't helped by Jaren Jackson Jr. never turning into the number 2. This is a big swap. 8 players go back and forth between the Jazz and the Grizzlies. The Jazz get Jaren Jackson Jr., John Conchar, who is a decent shooter at shooting guard. They get Jock Landale, who, one of those kind of big, beefy white guy centers that has been in a lot. He was in Portland for a while. He was in Phoenix for a while. I liked him in Memphis. I actually saw the Lakers and the Grizzlies play a month ago or so, and Jock Landale he's a good basketball player. And then on the other side, the Grizzlies get Walter Clayton Jr., slow-mo Kyle Anderson, Taylor Hendricks, and George Niang, who I like George Niang. For me, this is a great trade for Memphis. They got 3 future first-round picks. They got a bunch of players that could be serviceable for them, and they get off of Jaren Jackson Jr.'s contract. I think for Utah, Jaren Jackson Jr. is not going to be the thing that turns them around and causes them to win a bunch of games. But if they do have the season I expect them to have by the time we get to the end of the year. And they are picking very high in the lottery. Jaren Jackson Jr. could be a good piece on that team as they try and rebuild and become competitive again.
The Jazz, they need to be in the top 4, right? Otherwise they lose their pick. Do I have that right? Is it a
You
protected
might,
pick?
yeah.
Yeah, they have uncomfortable stakes right now. But yeah, I think it's a step change for both teams that are kind of middling, and they're trying to figure out what the future looks like. And the West is really
Yeah.
tough right now. The Grizzlies had their shot, and um, guns and strip clubs got in the way, unfortunately.
Indeed. Well, there were a bunch of other trades. None of them really mattered that much. So, we'll go ahead and call it good on the trades that did happen.
Yeah, I want to talk about 3 trades that didn't happen. I want to save the best for last.
Okay.
The Rockets not making any moves is really surprising to me. They had 5 tradable first rounders, and they're clearly a step behind San Antonio and OKC.
And missing Fred VanVleet in a big way.
And it's just fascinating to me that they didn't try and improve when you don't know how many years of KD you have. And you don't know when other teams are going to get better. And I just would have expected something out of them.
I kind of thought they might trade for Draymond because one of the big things that they've been missing this year is the grit that Dillon Brooks brought to the team. And when you're talking about players like Dillon Brooks or Draymond Green or in the NFL, guys that, played like Richard Sherman, they're guys that if they are not on your team, you tend to hate them. If they're on your team, you tend to defend them. And for me, Draymond was one of those guys that could have gone down to Houston and brought a level of grit and not had to play a ton of minutes because he's not going to play over Şengün. He's not going to play over Jabari. But they didn't. To your point, they didn't make any moves. They didn't get any better. And maybe this is a slow play. Maybe what they're saying is this doesn't have to be our year. Now, to your question, how many more years are you going to get from Kevin? I will say my best friend, Kevin Durant, who I have hung out with in the past, and I have high-fived and hand-shook him. This is a true story in his own house in New York, no less. He is silky smooth, and he's one of those guys. He's 7 feet tall. He's not just going to fall off of a cliff. He can get his shot over anybody. So I'm not so worried about Kevin Durant not being Kevin Durant over the next couple of years. But I still do question whether they could have made a move that would have made them a serious contender with the Oklahoma Cities and the San Antonios and the Denvers of the world.
100%. The other one I want to talk about is Drew Holiday, still a Blazer. For some reason, I really expected him to get moved at the deadline. It looks like the Blazers are going to try and push for maybe a play-in. I think they could probably do 6 seed at best.
John, I feel like I jinxed them. We got to 23 and 22, and then I wrote an article about watch out for the Blazers, and then they lost 5 straight games. And Denny injured his back.
Yeah, brutal. And
all-star, Denny Avdi, all-star, and well-deserved.
And the Wizards,
that's a tough injury.
The Wizards still feel like they made the right call trading him. Their GM is not backing off that. And
a rare win-win, if you will.
We were lucky to get Jeremy Grant back as Denny injured his back, but it is tough, and this tells me that they're probably going to have Drew and Dame playing side by side next year. Maybe not side by side. One will come in, one will come out next year.
I don't know. Yeah, I was about to say. I think the rotation is going to be interesting next year.
Really interesting.
You've got Dame, you've got Drew, you've got Blake Wesley, who before he broke his foot was looking really good, and then you've got Caleb Love, who was forced into a ton of minutes, and he's not the best defender on the floor, but he's a fearless shooter. And he's been a plus player for the Blazers this year. So it is going to be, for a year in which we've talked nonstop about the injury woes at the point guard position, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens next year when everybody's healthy. And I wouldn't be surprised, to your point, if Drew gets moved in the offseason, because there's just no world where you're going to bring all 4 of those point guards in and try and make it work.
100%. The last one I want to talk about before we talk about the big one that didn't happen. And this one, some of it happened, some of it didn't. Pour one out for your Bulls friends. They had some really fun moments this year, a really great start. Retiring Derrick Rose's jersey was an incredible moment.
My guy Mick was there for that one. Biggest Bulls fan in Ireland.
And then they traded away Ayo and Vucevic, and that hurts. My Bulls friend said yesterday, I'm dead inside. I'm never recovering from this. I guess we're in full tank mode. And luckily for them,
They need to be.
it is a
They
loaded
need to
draft.
be.
And they've lived in that play-in, which, you know, the Blazers lived in there for a long time. You're in that 9 seed, you're in that 10 seed, you're in that
It's
8 seed,
limbo.
in limbo. And this is a loaded draft in which I've read a lot of pundits say, hey, if Cooper Flag came out this year, he'd be like the 4th best player. So
Yeah. I don't know if I believe that, especially when you see what Cooper has been doing this year, but I totally understand how loaded this draft is going to be. But John, let's talk about Giannis. And before we talk about Giannis and like the trades that could have been, where he could have gone, I want to talk about Milwaukee as a franchise, because Milwaukee and Portland are similar in a lot of ways in terms of the size of these cities and, you know, what the basketball team means, but also, you know, going through periods of irrelevance.
is there a Portland, Wisconsin that's a suburb of Milwaukee? Like there's a
It probably
Milwaukee,
is.
Portland, or Milwaukee,
Portland's
Oregon?
everywhere, right? And my thing is, was this a situation where Milwaukee looked at it and they said, even if we're not going to be a championship contender over the next couple of years, if we trade Giannis and we do what Memphis did and we get a bunch of players and picks back, we're going to be irrelevant again. And they were irrelevant for so long. There was a period of time when, you know, Milwaukee couldn't sign anybody, and they had drafted really well. They had Glenn Big Dog Robinson, and they had Michael Redd, but that was all through drafting. And they're like Portland. When Portland's had really successful runs, it's all been through the draft. I remember 10, 12 years ago, Hedo Turkoglu was the top free agent on the market. And he had been with the Magic for a number of years, and he was going to get a max contract from somebody. He wasn't getting max offers from the big teams in the big cities, but he got a max offer from Portland, and it looked like he was going to come from Portland. And then at the last second, Toronto tendered him the same offer, and he went to Toronto. Much bigger city, more multicultural, that sort of thing. And that's just a reality, that when you're a Portland or you're a Milwaukee, even when you're in Oklahoma State, when you're not rolling like you are right now, even now,
Oklahoma
I think it would be
City,
hard for
yeah.
them to sign a primetime free agent. I remember when Paul George went there, people were like, Oklahoma City? Really? And he didn't stay there that long. So, you know, I look at this and I wonder if Milwaukee knew the best thing for getting back to championship contention is to trade Giannis. But they just also knew they need butts and seats. And the only thing that brings people to the arena is seeing Giannis. You can't go into one of those home games and look around the arena and it's 98% Giannis jerseys and not go, wait, we're going to trade him? What are we doing? And so I get why they hung on to him.
Well, and he had a short list of teams he wanted to go to, and the offers they were getting allegedly were just not what they were hoping. And yeah, you're hoping to get 4 first
But that's the
rounders
thing.
and pieces.
What would they have had to have been offered for them in their emotions? Like, right, we talk about this all the time. You and I have talked about this. Like, life oftentimes comes down to understanding who is arguing their point on logic and who is arguing their point on emotion. Because when two people are arguing on logic, you can get to a place. When one side is on emotion and one side's on logic, you go nowhere,
Yep.
right? And so I wonder, you know, was Milwaukee getting really reasonable offers, but there's just no such thing as a reasonable offer for Giannis?
Well, and now they're saying that they are confident they can build a contender in the offseason. And I'm like, I'm sorry, that just doesn't happen.
No, and Giannis isn't that guy anymore.
The other part of it is, what do you do for the rest of the year if you're Milwaukee? You have this super loaded draft. You have 13 wins right now, but you're also paying him something like $56 million, 30% of your cap space. Do you really shut him down now?
I think you do.
You have
Yeah.
to, right? And
You're
then
like, Giannis, your shoulder hurts, right? Right?
And
Right?
then, but then to your point, you need butts and seats, right? So
Yeah.
you're asking the Milwaukee fan base to buy in on there's 3 incredible prospects in this draft. If we can go get one of them, hey, the next 5 years
I don't
maybe
think you
looking
have to
up.
convince them of that. I think Milwaukee Bucks Reddit will do that work for you. Frankie wants to say hi. I think Milwaukee Bucks Reddit will do that work for you and say, thank God we hung on to Giannis and he will be with us next year. Let's get through the rest of this one. It hasn't been what we wanted. They're always going to have, I might even say, irrational expectations of what's possible with Giannis on the team. And that's all the front office really needs. Hope.
100%. And Giannis loves Milwaukee. He's stressed that time and time again. His dad's buried there, which tells you a lot of what he thinks of the city and how he views it
He
as
grew
home.
up there.
He
You
did.
know how that is. You know how, I mean, I know how that is.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not at 2K anymore, but I grew up there, and that is always going to be a place that matters to me.
He learned about dipping Oreos in milk there, and that blew his mind.
Huge, huge, huge. Well, John, Giannis is staying put. The Bucks, again, like everybody else we've talked about, don't really see their fortunes changing this year post trade deadline. It was an exciting one. The flurry of action was, again, kind of off the charts as far as I can remember. And I'm really excited to go down the stretch. I think, a little less excited for the Blazers, but as a general NBA fan, as somebody who watches a lot of NBA League Pass once the NFL season ends, I'm excited.
Yeah, and the playoffs are going to be just phenomenal. I cannot wait to see what we're going to get.
Me too.
Yeah, sorry. We can wrap it up. The Timberwolves, I was surprised they didn't make trades and try and get better. That's the other one that scratched my head a little
Yeah.
bit.
I will say my confidence in Ant in becoming the guy I thought he could be is dwindling. And I thought that they would go get somebody too. But the way that they're constructed, I think they will make the playoffs. They will have a couple of games where they win by 30 points and everything comes together. And then they're going to lose a series that you just look at that and you go, they're too talented to lose that series. But they will. So,
100%.
all right, John, I can't thank you enough for the time. I hope everybody enjoys Super Bowl week. I hope everybody enjoys the Olympics. We have got so much fun stuff ahead over the next few days. Be safe, everybody. Have a great time. And until next week, we will see you all again soon.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.